I didn't say I was out of touch with casuals. I said I was out of touch with what is a lot of money.
Yeah, well, that too.
I
but you're
still
also,
stand
like,
by that. 100 gold a week is not a lot of gold.
No, it's a lot of gold.
No,
So,
it's
when
a lot
talking
of
about-
gold if you choose not to engage with stuff that could just get it to you within like a few hours.
It depends. Like, depends on what type of player you are. Depends on what you do.
Okay,
as
look,
your main.
if you only have a few hours a week, I can understand. But if you're someone who's playing 15 hours of your time, 15 hours is a lot of hours a week to play. That's not a little of hours. I can understand if it's under 10 hours, you're kind of squeezed in, you want to only get in stuff that you like to do. But if you're averaging 10 plus hours a week of playing Guild Wars 2, yeah.
You
It
realize,
shouldn't be
like,
a lot.
I don't make 100 gold a week, right? And I know what I'm doing. Granted, I choose not
But
to
you
make 100
choose
gold a
not
week
to.
in a lot of ways.
Your focus is not where it needs to be. You're not trying to get
Yeah.
money right now. You're literally just like there's other priorities you're working on.
In terms of what WCR said, like literally 3 tier 4 dailies, you assume players have access to tier 4. Tier 4 is a luxury. It is not something everybody has or everybody can do. There are players out there that cannot do tier 4s. There are players out there that can't do tier 2s. And no, I'm not joking at that.
That's just
Maintaining
sad, to be
100 gold.
honest.
Oh, I've ran into them. Like, I was doing tier 2s the other day to help somebody.
Earning 100 gold a
There
week
was,
is
like,
easy.
4 of us.
Maintaining is a different story. I'm just purely saying earning. Like, I'm not talking about maintaining. Just
Earning 100
and
gold can
I'm not
be
saying
very
you need to be
challenging.
doing this every week. Like, you need to be doing the exact same thing. But if you're going to get some, like, if you're going to try to work towards a goal, right? Then yeah, get out of your comfort zone, right? You're gonna have to maybe do something that is gonna get it to you faster so that you can go back to playing what you like to play in the game, right? If all you do is log in for an open world event and you just like play whatever is there, then you're like, I don't know, I can't make money, but you're refusing to engage with like something like T4s or T3s, hell, even T2s, whatever. You're refusing to engage with maybe like a few metas that like definitely would line up your pockets a bit better. If you can't even do that for like a week or 2 weeks, like, honestly, it's on you. And yeah,
That's where I think you're out of touch. Like, a lot of the player base, and I mean a lot of the player base, when they interact with the content, it's at a much lower level. Even looking at what I do for most of my money, which is map completions, where yes, even that you can make 100 gold a week doing. They can't do it to the same level I can, where they're making half or even a quarter of what I make doing it.
what
and it's the
stops
same
players from
content.
participating in T4s? This is a very good question.
Lack of ascended, lack of skill.
There's no excuse for Ascended. There's no excuse. There are multiple methods you can get Ascended. You could just get it through Strike, like Iceboot Saga. You could...
There are 1-2 year players that don't have any ascended because they don't know what they're doing, and even with guides it's still very tricky. Like, yes, with the Wizard's Vault it's so much easier now and there isn't as much of an excuse, but even in removing the ascended, there's a skill barrier for a lot of them. You have to climb the ranks naturally. You can't do what I did, which is get friends to carry you in tier 4s. And, you know, you just never do the lower tiers.
This comes to a lot of factors also. And I think this kind of expands towards the pugging nature, right? Players here hate pugging. Guild Wars 2 players almost go out of their way to avoid public confrontation with other players in an MMO where you're meant to play with other players. So, but that's on the behavior and mentality of whoever thinks like that. Like, that's, again, like, the system is there. I'm not gonna say that like pugging is like a very smooth experience, because you'll have your bad ones and your good ones. And most of pugging comes from lack of communication on who's on what kind of level, and right? Expectations, right? That's probably where most communication breaks down. But system is there. And forget fractals. I mean, Drizzlewood Coast, you have LS4 Metatrain, you have DE. I mean, hell, now you even have Rifts. Rifts are very profitable themselves, right? But
well, Rifts are what's going to probably change things, and it may change things enough. But when it comes to fractals, generally speaking, I'm not saying I agree with this or that they're, you know, it's like I'm just stating what it is. That there are players that do not have the skill, do not have the dedication to get tier 4s done. I don't do fractals at all. I find it one of the most boring content in the game. When it comes to fractals, fractals are considered an upper tier, like specifically tier 4s, I should clarify. When I say fractals, I mean tier 4. They are considered an upper tier difficulty. Tier 1 through tier 3 is considered easy, and like most players can clear it. When you get to tier 4, there is a massive skill requirement jump from tier 3 for a lot of these players.
Not for all tier 4 fractals though. Not every single one of them is that level.
I'm being
there's very few fractals that I like. Right I could agree with like maybe something like a Twilight Oasis, or if you're doing any of you know, the final 3, right? Like Shatter, Nightmare, whatever. But the other ones are very easy. Yeah, and the deities will line up with something you might not like, but that's just a skill thing, right? That you could fix that the more you put effort into it, right?
Yes.
But if you don't choose to engage with that, fine, that's fair. But if you sit there and then you know you have this thing where like I can't do this, I can't make this, making gold or trying to get anything I want in the game is just way too difficult. If you're not gonna even put a little bit of an effort, like an ounce, no one's asking for that much, just an ounce, and it's not even permanent. You don't have to engage with like a game mode to make money every single day. But if you need it, it definitely helps, right? Now, if really fractals is not for you, like you don't even enjoy that kind of content, like it's not for you, fine, fair enough. You're gonna have to go and find some other systems, and there are other systems. There are other, you know, open world maps that you can make money from on a much slower level, but definitely can make money from.
I don't disagree. I'm not saying like I said, I don't agree with the mentality of a lot of players. I just know what it is, and I know what they're like because I interact with them, and you learn about people's mentalities the more you interact with them. So, take for example, there was a member that joined my guild. They were very new to the game. We taught them raiding, we taught them higher tier stuff, and from there they went from making 1 gold a week to, you know, about 8k a week. Just teaching them how to raid. And it's all it takes is like a small bit of like knowledge. They ended up joining Overflow and trading and all that.
Look, I think a lot of this stuff also does come with the fact that, yeah, you need to try, right? I think most players just are afraid of that. And honestly, this is more on... I don't know if this is really... I could fault the community itself. I'd say more it's with ANET for creating such a culture where you can just, you know, do low effort stuff, and that's how you should expect to play the game. So that whenever you do try the high effort stuff like raids or you know, like EOD strikes a little bit, there's a little bit of some semblance of effort and skill required to complete them. I can, you know, I maybe fault the direction of how the studio wanted the game to be, because that's what you create. You create this mentality that if it's a very low skill bar, that's what it should be. If it requires a lot more than you're used to, that's not what this game is supposed to be about, right? So then that basically it kind of punishes players who do want something challenging in the game. And this is kind of steering over the gold making part a little bit, but it kind of factors into it. This is why I find that a lot of players, you know, don't really make the most out of like their gold making or any of it. I'm not saying gold making in the sense that you must make money in this game. No, like you get gold for simple reasons, to spend it, right? Get stuff that you want in the game, buy some stuff from the gem store, you can convert gold to gems. So at some point you do need some sort of way of getting something, getting gold or getting materials or resources to grab what you want, right? Legendaries and stuff.
I'm
And
neither here
yeah,
nor
I mean,
there.
fractals are one of those methods. You can make it through raids. You can make it through PvP. Some open world methods. Yeah, the higher tier levels of money making, and we're ignoring trading, right? I'm ignoring not unconventional, but just trading, flipping, all of that, crafting, and
Like
you know.
through gameplay, yeah, it's
I'm just
entirely
talking
possible to
about
make
money
100
making
gold a
through
week.
gameplay.
Yeah, and I don't think it's unrealistic for the player base as a whole to get to the point of 100 gold a week being considered normal. I do, the caveat being though that till we get to that point, it's not, and it's very difficult to understand that, and that's why it's like such a out of touch mentality. And I'm not saying I agree with like the mentality of those players. I just state what it is. Someone brought up a good point earlier in the chat that I was trying to find a good point to address, which is there's a point where gold just doesn't matter. Like I got like almost 2,000 gold literally just sitting in my inventory doing absolutely nothing. No use for it. Like, even if I go and buy my legendary armor, there's still probably going to be like 1k gold sitting in my inventory. Just doing nothing. Not being useful. You know, like my biggest problem was spirit shards and I can't buy those. Like not in the way I need. So it's like, yeah, it's a mentality that players have that they need to get over, and once they do, then your mentality will be with the 100 gold is nothing, is closer to what it should be, where it's like, you know, players are making decent money, understanding what they're making, because I do agree with you that like people don't know what they're making. They don't realize just items are valuable. You know, the liquid gold, the account value, like that stuff matters, and you can make money off of binding something if you know what you're doing. Even if you don't know what you're doing, there's still ways to do it.
That I will say,
Yeah.
it definitely comes to the game itself. I do agree that this is, and yeah, this is one of the things I've explained. I've explained this in so many different avenues through the stream and videos. The game doesn't kind of tell you what you need to do, you know, with all of this in your inventory, right? You take this and then you convert it into gold, right? There is an extra step process. When you're farming on the open world, or whenever you're playing the game, and let's say a tracker told you, like if you went to efficiency and just switched on the tracker, it tells you you've made 25 gold in this 1 hour, right? But players get confused with the fact that 25 gold doesn't show up in their gold count, right? It's 25 gold spread across currencies, materials, spirit shards, all sorts of stuff, right? And then you have to basically then take those and convert them into raw gold if you need stuff to directly purchase with raw gold. Or understand that some of these materials and currencies are probably required for something, right? Like a legendary making, or an armor, or a set, or some achievements that require you to craft something that you want to unlock, right? It's not intuitive, right? You have to kind of get some sort of direction from players in the game rather than the game itself. It doesn't really tell it to you.
Yeah.
I agree with that. That kind of contributes to a lot of the problems that the game does have, and the realities to expect, right?
Yeah, and long term, there is still problems with the community's mentality. Like I said, the community as a whole does have a mentality problem, but in all categories. In raiding, there's a lot of problems on both sides of the mentality, both on the casual and the hardcore side, where it's like, on the hardcore side, there's too much expectation on like being like super duper optimum, and on the casual side, there's too much expectation on making everything work. To the point like there's a disconnect.
I think that those are, you know, if players set clear expectations, then if you can't match expectation of that player, then you go and you find people who are more like-minded to you. I don't think that is
Yes and no.
It's not.
When
It's
it
not what
comes to
happens in
plugging,
MMOs,
especially-
sure, but it certainly is. You don't find this is what I you don't find this too much in like WoW or anything like that, because WoW has a very specific expectation for a lot of people who raid. They're more likely than not, they kind of will admit whether they're like, I've been playing with Red for like 2 months now in WoW, rough give or take. The amount of times there are people who have reached out in whispers or with DM, or even things like questions that like for example getting like a mythic, right? Mythic guild, right? There's various mythic guilds at various experiences. But there is a requirement to join them. There is like a minimum expectation. But all of those are trying to get better at their timings and finish the content faster. I think that kind of expectation shouldn't be like a surprise. Like they expect me to be good to join their guild. Like, no, it's like a requirement. If you can't match it, go find something else, right? It's not like you're forced to join that guild. You can go find someone else to play with.
I do think that's part of the one of the downsides Guilds vs 2 has when it comes to that, because you can join 5 guilds, because you can join so many communities, and I'll be perfectly honest, guilds are almost worthless in this day and age. It's hard to find like-minded people and be a part of a group. You know, 5 guilds is nice, you get to go and be a part of all your different friend groups all at once, but you don't feel really attached to any of them. Back in the day when there was rep requirements and people actually repped and did stuff, it was a little different.
I think where most opinions are always taken on the extreme end, like it can only be this side or that side. There isn't an in-between, right? Like,
Well, that's where
nobody's
I
saying you need
is
to be
the-
making 100 gold every single week. But if there is a time that you're going for something, yeah, that once a week, if you could just change the routine, it might significantly help you, right? Try new systems. First, like actually get into the game. I don't say get one bad experience and leave. I think that doesn't really tell you much, right? You kind of need to try a few more times to see if it really is the fit for you, and you need to do it the right way, right? Yeah, one bad pug experience, that doesn't really, you know, that's not gonna mean it's gonna be the same all the time, right? You might have just had one bad luck, right? Guild Wars 2 in that case, LFG is more like a 70-30 in terms of good and bad, but I mean that's besides the point. There are groups out there. I wish that a lot of the group system and group finder systems were more in Guild Wars 2. But that's an issue the game has to fix elsewhere, right? Because right now, if you want to really find groups, there are progression groups, there are training groups, there are groups with low expectations to raiding, fractals, and there are in multiple Discord communities. You just have to find them. They're very much out there, you know, and anyone who would like to point people towards there can point them towards there, right? I think this is also one thing that comes back, and this is probably, I don't know if it's similar in WoW or Final Fantasy, but it's clearly a problem in Guild Wars 2, right? Where you have to go out of your way to find communities like that, even if they're big, right? I'm not saying they're not big, like Snow Crows, Raid Academy, Crossroads Inn. These are very big major raiding communities that have raid progression, maybe specific CM progression, whatever it is. They're out there. They've got thousands of players. But I think it's that step of players getting there first before anything happens. It's just like that one step forward is literally the only thing that's preventing players from going.
I think ultimately it also comes down to, like, big communities are great, but big communities are also intimidating. And that's something to always keep in mind. Something like joining Snow Crows can be absolutely terrifying. Especially, or even Raid Academy, which is considered new raider friendly, is incredibly terrifying for some people. Even ignoring those with that are just socially anxious. Like joining big communities, you're a small fish in a very, very, very big pond, full of some very scary people. Like, you know, if I was a new raider and I ended up with interacting with Nike. Nike is not a bad person. I've never had a problem interacting with him. But being if I was a newer raider, it'd be very intimidating. And you know, he doesn't pull his punches.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
mean
like-
that just depends on certain, you know. I mean that extends to anyone with any personality that's known in the game, right? I think most people might just, you know, some people will just be friendly and be able to approach. Some people, yeah, will be like, that person's kind of known. I don't know what to say. I can understand that, right? That's personalities, and this is where I think some things can be a bit of an issue, right? Like, is that Crossroads in Raid Academy, they don't have raid guilds. Like, raid guilds don't promote themselves out there. If you do want to find like a small guild with like that you'd consider like your, you know, like a small like sort of family, or like your friends of like a small community, those guilds, they recruit in a very specific way, right? They don't go out of their way to spam map chat. They're very much like, if you know someone, bring them to the guild. So it's like someone in the guild would know you, and then that's how you get invited to some of those small guilds. Every now and then, some of them kind of try to recruit a few, you know, like they'll maybe recruit 15, 20 new people from across the board, right? And then that's, you know, they get them to see if they're like, you know, it's a guild that they'd fit in or any of like that. But
I mean, yeah.
you do have to go. I will say you do have to go out of your way to find those small guilds, and some of them are gems. They're like, you know, it's a group of like 60 or 70 people with, you know, maybe 5 to 10 regularly on the Discord every day, chatting, and not even necessarily playing the same game, just maybe even playing something else. But there are very few and far ways of finding them. There's definitely a bit of effort there.
I mean, expectations is basically the name of the game that we're talking. Is like, even in money making, it's like expectations, trading, everything. Like I was saying, there's small guilds that don't advertise beyond like certain times. Like my guild only recruits via word of mouth. If somebody asks to join, like, I'm not gonna stop them. I'm just an invite. But I'm not going to go out of my way and be like, join my guild. We did that during Dragon's End. We did a lot of recruitment during that. We grew with quite a few members, that some of them active. But you're not going to find my guild unless you ask around. And I'm not saying my guild's like the be-all, end-all. It's not. Half of the guild is like new players. But you don't know what your communities are out there till you start asking around. You see a guild with like a cool tag, you want to join it. That's probably best to ask them to join, or see what they're about, see if they're recruiting.
I wish it wasn't like this, to be honest. All right, it's kind of, it doesn't sound healthy.
Well, the fact that we don't have a guild lookup tool,
you know, that is one of the biggest issues I find. That like it's so easy, a guild lookup here where everybody could just advertise their guild. I don't know if maybe the game can handle it, but I'm sure it can handle some extreme version of it, right, or something.
Yeah.
To me, okay, look, I guess and this is where probably I agree with people who tell me like, yeah, you can't see it because it's not you. Yeah, I agree. I can't see something where, like, if I'm going for something, I'm gonna try and find the best way to get it in the least amount of time, right? But that doesn't mean I'm doing that very thing, that very method every single time, even if I'm not going for something, right? I mean, I happen to have an interest in money making, so I guess, yeah, for me, like, most of the time I have to go for the most efficient stuff. But that's part of the game. That's part of the gameplay for me. My personal gameplay, and anyone else who relates to that gameplay, right? But yeah, a bit of effort, a bit of out of the comfort zone is required, you know. And this is a game, right? I understand. People come in here, they play. It's like their break from the real life exposure, or whatever they're going through in life. It's their break, right? Some people want to take it on a very casual level. Some people want to maybe also challenge themselves even in the game format. I'm just trying to say, right? It's just that if you are struggling and you're clearly like frustrated about some ways of getting something, but yet you don't want to at least try other methods, it's on you, right? A game shouldn't have to be easy all the time. It should challenge you in some aspect, because there should be a cater to other players who also love that challenge. They don't mind it, right? So if you're fine with farming or whatever, open world, or I think we're gonna die here. We'll see. We'll see.
I think ultimately it comes down to two things. One is mentality, and two is tools. The mentality is something that's on the players to fix. They have to do that themselves. We can't do that for them. And a lot of it comes down to actually looking into information. You know, Mukluk has his easy daily gold thing, which for most players, that if they just started doing like one or two of those things, would find they have tons of more gold.
I don't agree, by the way. I don't agree with the home instance, though. I will say that, but
but join a guild, rob the guild of its resources, call it a day.
That's actually what I was gonna say. Like, if someone else has an home instance, go farm that. But yeah, for example, Mukluk actually has some very good like routines of stuff. In fact, I even have a similar video of it. Pretty old now, but the same video still applies, and I think his video is also just as old. But yeah, a daily routine of things, and just segment it, right? If you only have 10 hours or less than 10 hours to play Guild Wars 2, if you have less than 10 hours to play anything like in your week time, then it gets a bit difficult, right? If you're playing multiple games, then it sucks to not be able to play more than, you know, like an hour a day, because you can, you know, in most games, depending on what you're playing, if they're RPG, then, you know, it's it'll take you maybe a bit of a time to finish a game like that. But if like it's an MMO, a few hours a week definitely is a very low amount. Like you definitely won't be able to finish a lot, but every now and then I think going and finding different things, it's fine. There are some things, like I do agree with the routine, like a daily routine to do. However, the thing with daily routines is you also have to pick and choose as it fits to your schedule. You might also not be able to do most of that every day. You'll have to, in the daily routine, pick what will be the best ones to add to your routine. Maybe it's because you relate to it, maybe you don't relate to it, but whatever it is. But it won't be easy.
I mean,
either.
like,
the LFG certainly has been something they need to finally at some point get together. I don't know, maybe it could be in the next expansion, but I'm just basing it on the fact that they did do a lot of systems changes in Soto. It's very much more systems than gameplay, you know, what's it called, priority, which is good because it turned out very well. I'm just thinking, right, if they do manage to update one or two systems every expansion, then LFG could be next. GVG, guilds, that could be also something. GVGs at some point, who knows.
I mean, yeah, like the guild, honestly, guilds probably need it more than LMG does, and that's saying something. Like overall, there's a lot that needs changed in the player mentality and the tools we have. The player mentality, like I said, all they need to do is just adopt a daily routine. Even if all you do is log in, go to your guild hall, harvest the guild hall, and log out, you're making money. It's not a lot, but you're making money.
It's kind of, it adds up though.
Yeah, I mean,
look, this video here is actually where I would sum up most of these kind of money making issues. And yeah, I'm gonna sort of chill but this is actually a very, this video here, it's not even anything, it doesn't tell you methods of money making, but it's this one right here. How gold works, right? And how to prioritize your wealth. It's basically how do you prioritize your materials, your currencies, to get the stuff that you need to get, like, you know, legendary armor, gear, whatever. Because it doesn't matter like what you have, right? But if you don't know what are the items you need for something, then you don't know what you don't need to get rid of in the same moment. And it's also being okay to prioritize your goal now than what you need to do later. And this is a common trope that happens. And I find this so much every single time someone tells me, I have 500 of item X, and I have 250 of item Y, but I also need 500 of item Y because that's what's required. Okay. What else do you have? Well, I have this random item Z that I have 1,000 of it. Okay, so sell the excess. You have, 1,000, that's 500 extra. Sell the 500 so you can fund your item Y and make that 500. So then you can have all the requirements. No, but I might use it for an item maybe a few months later. But that's the thing, that you're hoarding something for a second goal you haven't even started, when you already are working towards the goal that you have now. So you've added hours of your time to try and get something that you could have just cut those extra hours out. And by the time you go for like another legendary or another armor, like you'd have saved those materials at some point again anyway. You would have accumulated enough. And that is, I think, one of the biggest issues is the hoarding mentality. People just can't prioritize what they need now, and they always think long term. And that's fine. It's good to know what you want to do later, but why are you thinking about the thing that you're making 3 months? You haven't even finished the one that you're doing now. Like, focus. It's just a simple thing. And this is what it boils down to. It's not money-making methods. It's simply resource management. That is literally, that's all that there is. And that's, after that, where you go and make your money will determine how much you have to manage those resources with yourself.
Being able to go and like sell a bunch of stuff you're not using to go and fund like a legendary operation is very, very good. If I actually did that, I probably would be making a lot more money. But laziness.
Yeah. Anyway, but I think that's just wow. It was kind of like I had a lot of stuff to say, to be honest, and then you kind of set the trigger, and this is why this convo started.
You're welcome.
Look, I appreciate like finding different perspectives, right? It's kind of one of the fundamentals of figuring out the issues. You need to be able to listen to, I guess, where everyone else is coming about, right?
Yeah.
Because reality is not everyone has the same game time, right? Some people play 15 hours, some people play 20, some people play 5. People got all sorts of responsibilities, obligations in life, family, work, kids, whatever, right? And everyone's gameplay process is going to be different. And I understand. Also, everyone gets something else out of the game for themselves, right? Some people like challenges in games. Some people just want to switch on something and, just do whatever. They don't really care. They just want to play. And there are some people who might delve into certain things here and there. But I do think, and this is where I come in from my perspective, is that, at the end of the day, understand that if you're struggling in a process of something, you need to be able to at least see what the other side of things that you haven't considered could actually be. Maybe it's great, maybe it's not for you, maybe it's a phase and then you just never touched again. Like maybe you raid and then you get everything you want out of raiding and you're like, all right, well, I've put in 1,000 hours into raids. I don't think I want to put more than that. Fair. Maybe you put in 15, 20 hours and you're like, yeah, this isn't for me, right? But what I'm just trying to say is go a little bit out of the comfort, just a little bit. And I imagine in real life, more likely than not, everybody's in situations where they have to go a little bit out of their comfort zone, right? And it's not because you were forced to by somebody else, but because maybe there's something you wanted and you're like, this is gonna be something I have to slowly maybe work myself up to, right? I've been there as well. I've been in situations where I was trying to get something done and I had to get out of the comfort zone that I'm in right now and kind of just be like, okay, I'm just gonna have to do it, right? But I understand if I don't do it, then the thing that I want isn't gonna happen. It's just a standard thing. And I don't say take your MMO as you take your real life, which is seriously or whatever. But sometimes, you're gonna have to take an adventure, you're gonna have to take that side quest.